Peace. What up? What up? What up? You on mute, brother Nakia.
What's up,
There
y'all?
we go.
There you go.
Peace, world.
What's going on?
What's good? We back. We back in the building for another episode. This is episode number 41. We got a special guest in the building. Yeah. We've been looking to build with this brother for a good minute, man. So we're glad to have you on, man. So greatly appreciate you taking the time out, man, to be with us.
Oh, it is an honor, man. Thank y'all for even considering me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, it's gonna be great, man. So as we always start off, y'all know what we got to do. We got to get into the bars. We got to talk about, who spit those bars. So for tonight, I got the bars. I'm gonna bring you something, man, that you may be familiar with, actually, especially considering where you're from.
Okay,
but
I'm
good.
Good. All right.
It's relatively new, so I'll hit you with it. This is a few of the verses from the artist.
Okay.
But desecrating the temples and the ghetto, funeral processions increase with frequency. But we can't break the spell of Geppetto. No one knows, and the scrolls and obituaries contain more words than dictionaries. That will define how lions in Zion became alley cats, who traded their baseball bats for gats that spat blood of the people across steeples, the concrete jungles that turned playgrounds into graveyards, that buried generations of black and brown men who left their posts because they were misguided by ghosts in the land of the living.
Bro,
let me continue.
Recent? This is recent?
It's relatively recent, 2022.
Okay.
2022.
Okay.
Ready, aim, fire. Want to be the block, but can't buy the block. Bulldozing the block, making the Red Sea choke on bones. From drones sent by PPP loans to see how you spent the money. Left, right, left.
Bro, you got me stumped. This shit.
Give us a hint. Give us a hint.
I have no idea.
So it's an artist that we featured very, very recently. Brother True had brought him out very recently. Midwest.
Lupe Fiasco.
Wow.
All right,
okay,
you got it.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
The Lion's Dean. It's the very first track off of his album that came out in 2022.
Wow.
Called
I'm listening to Go Allen. So
man, so am I.
I'm like, what? Damn, you got me. All right.
I recognize the Geppetto line somehow.
Yeah.
I'm like, that seemed like a Lupe bar. I think I've heard that. What's the name of the song?
That one was The Lion's Dean. That's the very first track off of that album.
Okay.
Oh man, I'm trying to think of
Is that Samurai or is that the Droga's Wave? Is it one of them?
No. Oh man, I just got the album the other day. That's why I went to the lyrics, because I just got the album. I can't think of the name of the album right now.
Okay. That was dope.
Yeah. But yeah. He was spitting on that one, man. He came through with those bars, man, for sure.
Yeah.
And actually, that one was it was like poetry. That was the lady that was spitting at the very beginning of the album.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Man,
I've definitely heard the album. Yes.
Let me look it up real quick. Because I just downloaded it the other day. I just got it the other day.
Yeah, those are some
Drill Music in Zion.
Drill
Music in Zion.
Okay,
that's it. Yeah, Drill Music in Zion. Yeah.
Shout out to Lupe, man.
I gotta check that.
Man, I always dropping some dope content, man. Like I said, I hadn't even listened to the album, but just on Saturday, man, I was riding with a buddy of mine, and And I was like, man, because he heard the song you was talking about earlier. So he was like, man, let's check and see what Lupe's got out. And so we went to it, and this was the album. I was like, man, put that one on first. And so we played that one, and then I haven't even got his new album either, man. But I'm gonna get into that for sure because he was dropping.
Yeah, absolutely. No, he's one of my favorites, but I have not dabbled into that newer one, man. So I got to check that out. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it. Let's just say that it's definitely worth it.
Yeah.
Well, man, look, here at the Growth Spot, man, we are unified in action to build and protect the fruitful legacy of love, equity, growth, ancestry, cooperation, and yield. And with that being said, man, we've got a special guest in the building. As my son calls him Mr. Bush, and I know him as Mr. Bush, you know.
Yeah, what's going on,
man? Entrepreneur, teacher, student, man, all things, man, and it's just exciting, man, to have you on, man. So please tell the people a little bit about yourself, man, for those that don't know.
Yeah, so my name is David Zachary. Depending on where you know me from, is I guess what you call me, but everybody knows me by Zach. TikTok, they know me by ZacGoFish. And I have a newfound cannabis company, and that name is Sneaky Dog. So like I said, depending on what industry I've connected with you, that's my name. From the south side of Chicago originally, and I found my way all the way out here, out west in Arizona in the desert, some kind of way. My entire family actually moved from Chicago to Arizona. My uncle literally just touched down yesterday. And essentially I've been working with the youth since I was a young man. My church essentially had a mentorship program. We would just take young men, me being one of them, young men from the south side of Chicago, out camping and fishing. And from there, it's just, I learned so much that has never really, stopped. I've continuously sought out nature, science, and agriculture from some of the experiences that I've had in my mentorship group. And that's why I connect with you guys, at the Growth Spot specifically, because you guys are mentoring young men. So yeah, I've been looking forward to this conversation and mostly getting in cooperation and partnership with you guys. So, we can really make a difference because essentially, God has just blessed me and made a way for my skill set. So I'm just kind of reaping the harvest of all the seeds that I've planted in various places. But my life allows me to pursue all of my passions and entertain my passions every single day. So I'm living a very good, happy, and grateful life, a life full of gratitude, especially now that I hate to say that I am out of Chicago, not for any other reason other than I can garden and I can grow crops and I can go fishing, and I can entertain and expand on my nature and my different agricultural concepts in a area that has a climate like this one. So I've just been enjoying figuring things out here, how they grow, figuring out the lay of the land, figuring out where to go for certain things. And then, like I said, this terrain is ridiculous. I can leave and walk out of my house and within a 20-minute drive be deep inside of a foothill that just completely surrounds me, fishing in a canyon lake with rams, and different types of mountain lions and things like that roaming, right above my head, eagles and things like that. So being able to tap into Arizona's nature natural resources, the agricultural resources and things like that. I've just been having a really fun time with. But essentially, I'm a farmer. I do have 20 acres of land. Just last week, I negotiated with a family member to have the rights to farm some land actually in North
That's
Arizona.
dope.
Yeah, so I also wanted you guys to help me with that project. Um, it takes a lot of manpower to develop.
Tell me
And
about it.
yeah, and so I have to shout out my best friend right now because my best friend, Sam Kashkish, we have been best friends for 15 years. Um, I was just in a situation where I had to leave Chicago for family, for another contract, but we were in the process of developing land and developing our regenerative farm. So my farm, Sam and I's farm, it's called Cash Farm. It's just about 15 miles outside of the hood of Chicago. Um, and essentially, um, we are producing a multitude of things, but consistently lamb meat production.
That's what's up.
Yeah, we have corn, sweet corn, and we have soy. So those are our things. That's a learning curve, figuring out how to tend to land, um, things like that. And being a farmer, this whole STEM idea of science, technology, engineering, and math comes into play. So um, essentially, I am a STEM engineer. I am a aquaculture engineer. I've done many things within agriculture, which actually is aquaculture. Aquaculture falls within agriculture. Um, I've been able to. What's going on, brother?
Peace and blessings.
My
Peace,
man.
peace.
So I've been able to um, develop a couple of practices within aquaculture that actually put me into kind of a position to now attack agriculture. Um, Sustainable practices, just essentially figuring out how to have happy animals, I think, is the root of what I do. Happy animals and happy plants. I know when my
Man,
animals are happy because they're interacting with me and also nature, and um, they're living their lives as opposed to an animal that's in survival mode. And also, I'm a person that has a hefty amount of knowledge on this whole tilapia debate. A lot of people
Mm.
are saying tilapia is a trash fish, but that's because the water in which you're sourcing your tilapia from is
absolutely.
trash in it. So I started from a young age understanding with the model of um, fish how to farm sustainably while watching my family members farm sustainably out of survival nearly, from Louisiana. My family in Marion, Louisiana. My uncle is actually a governor and one of the top cow um, farmers out there. Essentially, he's taught me a lot. But there's a multitude of people that I owe a debt to in terms of my knowledge, um, and also technology, YouTube. But essentially, I've learned some knowledge through a multitude of people. But I think that I am a continuous seeker of knowledge of old school agricultural techniques, the techniques that we used to use hundreds, 100 years ago to get our collards to pop,
Come
to
on.
be able to harvest them not 10 times, in which people know how to do, but 20, to turn our collards into trees, not just a 5 turnover crop. And then in addition to that, the flavor. So
Yeah,
everything that I'm growing right now, it tastes better, it is better for you, and you're getting a certain type of mineral and or terpene and or protein that you would not normally get, because we are consuming produce grown by agriculture specialists that are pumping our food and everything that we consume with growth hormones, that deeply affect us. And a growth hormone
Yeah.
is one thing that I can talk about, but there's thousands of gimmicks that people are using to mass produce things that are not good for us. Um, Things that you smoke, things that you eat, things that are supposed to be herbal. If your body and your mind are craving a certain thing and you go to the store and you spend more money on this organic product only to turn around and to find multiple additives into the
Yep.
solution base in which is producing this product. Or when you find out that the fertilizers that they're using are literally coming to you in plastic
Poisons.
bottles. Let's talk about that. You just put all of these microplastics from a fertilizer bottle into something that you want to consume for a medicinal benefit, and that's doing more harm than good. But essentially, you can't farm anything organic quickly. Organic doesn't happen fast. There's not a fast turnover, and you can't cheat
Right.
nature in that regard. So when you start cheating nature, then you start killing people. Um, and it's really that serious. So, but I know I went into a lot of different places, but
That's good.
tilapia is not a trash fish. Um, it is literally about the environment in which you are
Yeah.
having these animals. And a lot of the meat, the protein that we're getting is coming from cows that are on a lot that are not actively feeding, and
Yep.
they're not actively using muscles. They're just sitting there, um,
Yep.
to one spot eating. And that's not a natural product. That's a live product, but there's a lot missing. So, right now, I'm developing an agricultural format for free range cows on the land that my cousin just negotiated with me. And I'm trying to figure out, well, this land is 3.5 hours away. There's no other way other than someone being there consistently to have free range cows in the way that I want them. And whenever I start up something, whenever I'm importing um, hundreds of fish from Sri Lanka, because I import fish wholesale for aquariums, and that's how I got my start professionally within
Okay.
aquaculture. I started off being really good with ornamental fish before I even considered having fish to consume. And with that, figuring out how to prevent fish death from animals that are worth a lot of money, I'm now able to really figure out how to care for the tilapia and the catfish and things like that we're raising. So I have plenty of different agricultural plans that are en route, from helping my clients produce larger yields with their cannabis plants, which are legal to have in Arizona, legal to have in Illinois. You have to be sure that you're following all the laws, the regulations. That being said, no, not too many people know how to have max yield, and to not have to continuously grow to get a good quality product, to grow one season and to have something for your cupboard, or to just continuously grow because it's a legal thing and you can do that. Essentially,
Yeah.
that's what my business does. So I tend to my clients' cannabis gardens, but I also tend to my clients' rose gardens, my clients' bougainvillea gardens, cactus gardens, anything that flowers, essentially anything that is alive, I am a consultant for that, because there's multiple ways to achieve an ecosystem, and there's multiple ways to skin a cat. Essentially, I'm an expert in the field of turning land over for production, organic production specifically, but it is not of just one type of crop. It is a research-based organization, consultation, if you will. Um, but it is to focus on the production of organics and to not incorporate any type of
The
negative or
chemicals.
inorganic. So essentially, yeah. So the whole cannabis operation is I am essentially helping people with their own crop, um, and with the consultation of I've done plenty of aquaponic consultations. So that is essentially my bread and butter as well. Growing
Yeah.
tilapia or catfish or uh,
Koi.
koi. So I
Yeah.
I also I will say I'm not sure that there are many people that had that type of setup that I had, where I had koi fish that I purchased that someone had imported from Japan from one of their family members. This was like a lineage koi because that's how it started. Each family would have a specific type, color variant of koi that they would breed. Um, and essentially, I don't know the depths of this, but I have a great koi supplier here. Beautiful koi. I
Yeah.
placed this in a public school, a public STEM school, and I had the kids tend to it. Essentially, we were growing out these beautiful, beautiful, beautiful koi. Um, it was an ornamental aspect of come feed the koi. The more that they poop, the more that they fertilize, all of the things that are up top. And this was a sustainable project. We used IBC totes, and we took some chisels, whatever we could at that moment in time. Soldering irons were used, a multitude of things to craft a couple of holes. It was very simple, but essentially is a recirculating aquaculture system called RAS, RAS. And through that, we produced consistently every 30 days, probably 10 to 20 pounds of lettuce, depending on how much time we had to tend to this garden.
Yeah.
Radishes, radishes 30 days, lettuce is 30 days, things like that, and different herbs that pop up kind of quick. Cilantro is relatively quick, and things that are cold water. So it's like I said, there are many different formats. So cold water, lettuce, koi, hot water. If you want to do something outside, we're gonna do tilapia. We stay away from trout unless you're in Chicago. Chicago gets cold, you can have trout. Tilapia, I focused on tilapia, the benefits of using them for the aquaculture, I'm sorry, aquaponics fertilization, for the fact that they are heat tolerant and they're also um, um, tolerant to cold water. They can take up to, I think the coldest it had gotten was like 32 degrees in Arizona, and they were fine. They can live in temperatures up to however the hell hot it gets in Arizona, which is crazy. So, um, tilapia are an extremely hardy fish, and they create more than enough waste to not have to pay for fertilizer, because we are trying to do this in a sustainable way. So
Yeah.
essentially, I create sustainable and regenerative agricultural farm formats for people to go off and then either produce money with, or produce a business with, or produce their own food. And I started off by securing my family's own food safety net. by getting that 20 acres of land by me and my best friend, starting off with maybe 3, 4 lambs that we got from Craigslist. We don't know nothing about lambs. We don't know how are we supposed to get this lamb onto the land. We bought it. Oh snap! We're gonna have to go buy a cage. We buying cages, and eventually we figured out, okay, we'll have to get some trucks. We'll have to, but until then, we'll have to be very creative. And coming from the hood, I can't thank God enough because I've been able to be very creative, and essentially think outside of the box consistently and out of survival. But we were turning free pallets into essentially what is our whole farm. Our whole farm is made out of free pallets and recycled materials. And so we didn't have enough to have that white picket fence that our neighbor has. But now you can't really tell the difference because we have more animals. Now that our animals are doing so well, there's many things that we can do. We can sell the animals. You know, my buddy is able to maintain a certain amount of flow, and then that finances comes with the whole aspect of the operation, and that's for you know what I'm saying. But with that being in or out of the picture, farming is absolutely necessary regardless of making money. And most people just don't realize that you're supposed to operate your farm as a business, and that is just recycled information that the old folks have been telling us that a lot of people don't want to listen to. But now that everything is hitting the fan, people are paying attention to this now. But it's really, all I'm saying is just been written in books, and I'm just applying it to different species, and I'm applying it to, the things that I'm working with. But I wouldn't be in any other field because this literally feels like I'm not working. Being able to see plants growing, being able to see animals. There's my little bulldog right here crying right underneath my feet right now. But so essentially, there is no us without agriculture. We can't move into a place until we figure out how we're going to feed ourselves. So I am essentially, I started off with the agriculture company. So ZacGoFish edu. I started off teaching kids how to fish. Then I started taking kids to different farms, and then my buddy and I actually figured out a way. He came up on an inheritance, and we made smart investments with that inheritance to feed ourselves and our families and educate our communities on how to take care of yourself the way that we're doing. And that's what we've started right there in Chicago for my community and his community. And thus we focus on halal lamb production. So that was my very first farm, and also cultural experience, because my best friend and a lot of my best buddies are Palestinian, and I had no understanding of and Palestinian, but also Muslim.
Right.
Muslims, yeah, exactly. So, with that being said, not all you can't eat all meat. He taught me that some meat is wrong. See what I'm saying? I have a deeper understanding, but also I think the biggest thing was the Black community had been consuming halal meat, and people were benefiting off of halal meat, thinking that it was a means of, it's just a sales point, without understanding that it's actually a way of cleaner meat, a humane way of slaughtering
the meat.
Exactly. It has nothing to do with anything else. So that does not mean just because it's halal that it's organic. No,
Right.
no, that does not mean that. It just means that he's saying that he is performing his halal ceremony. But also, I've been around enough people to know. So I'm filled with the Holy Ghost. I'll be completely honest. I'm a Christian. I was born and raised in the church. That being said, I completely respect my brother's faith. And that being said, we've gone to plenty of places where I see how my brother and I do it. When he's slaughtering and his father is praying, I'm praying my own prayer.
Indeed, indeed.
And so I say all this to say I've been to some places, and I don't think that what those men are doing is praying. I think what those men are doing is just making money in a quick turnaround, because
Absolutely.
I hardly hear them utter. You see what I'm saying? So
A word before they slaughter, right?
exactly, our processes are genuine halal, and also at that, we're not in it to sell our animals. We're in it
Yeah.
for our animals to literally continue to reproduce. So we are turning 4 into 40, and we've done that.
Man.
We are developing ways of conservation with emu, ostrich like birds, emu.
Yep.
They live in the cold. It's freezing. They're from Australia, but we have over 20 emu in the cold, and I didn't even know that that was a thing. So that's my buddy's
Wow.
project. He got these little baby birds. They look like velociraptors. In 6 months, they're taller than you. So I left,
Wow.
came back to Arizona after we did some developments. We were working on a catfish farm. We're working the pond on the acreage. We got about two acre pond, but say an acre because there is not enough water in there. We're trying to figure out how to keep that in there so we can
Yeah.
get more depth, so we can do something with some catfish. We got bad. There's
Man.
space in there, but we need to improve. I go there. He's got baby emu chicks. I come back in 6 months. I'm scared out of my mind because it feels as if I'm in the Jurassic Park. I have no idea what's going on. These emu are running around like with their heads flying backwards. They have this thing where they essentially have like ticks, like nervous ticks. You need to give them space because they'll at any given point do a mad dash and like 25 miles an hour in any direction. It might be feeding time. As you shake the bucket, he's shaking, he's moving. You have to take care of them because if they get hurt or rub against anything at all, that's a dead emu. They're very
Yeah.
fragile, but they're huge. And with that, emu are supposed to be the new red meat, and emu also have leather. So there are a multitude of things that you're supposed to be doing with your animals and with your land. You have to make sure that you're composting. Everything starts with compost, essentially.
Man.
And that's what I've learned, because also when you're trying to register with the USDA, which we're in that conversation with now, moving forward,
We
and
just finished.
exactly being organically certified, it is literally all about how long you've been selling a product. And the easiest and the first product, and it's on the USDA website, it is typically compost. People start off with compost. So that's why the Arizona Worm Farm
Yeah.
is still doing compost, but you see that they are trying to do other things. They figured out a whole method to a successful farm is worm composting. There's a lack thereof in the area, and they sell compost. And now they sell more things and they make more money off different things. But bread and butter, which will essentially take care of the cost to uh, run the operation, and then the rest is for you to take. And like I said, how people run financials is a whole different operation, but a lot of people don't think about financials in terms of agriculture and farming, agribusiness. And right
Man.
now, the kids that are coming up within the last 10 years, there has been a crazy boom of kids that are not kids, they're doctors and professors in agriculture. You're going to hear different things now, but agribusiness, agriculture, because essentially we're running out of food. And that's something that, regardless of if the media has missed it or not, it's happening. And
Yep.
there is a large amount of people that are specialists. And I will say that there is a lack thereof of Black and Latino agriculture specialists. Uh,
Yeah. Less than 1% of farmland in the United States is owned by what we call black people. So yeah. Yeah.
exactly, historically. But the boom is definitely coming. And we just got to make sure that we're on the right part of it, whether you are blue, orange, purple, or gold, because we all have to eat, and I want everybody to eat. But it's coming to the point, excuse me, where you have to have a way to feed yourself, and you should have something
Yeah.
regenerate for yourself, for your group of family that you're taking care of, because you never know what's going to happen.
Man,
Um,
I want to go back to something that you said earlier, man, and that's dope, man. Just the experience of how you guys started, and it reminded me of don't despise small beginnings. You know what I mean? That's one of the words that we talk about, and that's how we started. You know, we got to start off of the call, man. We got to start off with just spitting the call. But I want to go back to something you talked about the water, man. So talk to us a little bit about you talked about your names even speak of it, right? ZacGoFish, right?
yeah, yeah.
But talk to us about the importance of the water, and then what are some things that people can do to the water to ensure that you get the valuable nutrients that are needed to be able to put into the soil.
Okay, okay. So in terms of specifically taking care of plants, correct? Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
plants, and then anything that we put in the ground, and even your aquaponic system that you talked about as well.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, that's really exciting because essentially I take care of soil. That's the main thing that I do. I take care of microbial activity. I take care of my soil in terms of I do not let my soil get too dry, but I also don't let it get too wet. And I
It's a
am
big fact.
exactly. So I'm continuously, if I'm growing indoors, you just have to check that if you're growing in Arizona in general, indoors or outdoors. But in terms of my water, okay, so I have to break it down back to what I know. And that is the first thing my dad ever taught me was fresh water is going to make all your fish grow. Okay. So in terms of your water, if you can water with a water source that is being aerated, fresh, you are in better shape in terms of that water as opposed to watering with a stagnant water. So my water that I am watering on my plants that I'm consuming, I first off don't believe in hydro, and that's a whole other topic. I do believe in aquaponics, but I say all of this to say um, I don't get deep into reading my pH because my soil cancels out all of that. I'm growing in soil because soil is a forgiving, um, it's a forgiving, what is the word that I'm looking for? It's a forgiving substrate to grow in. Okay. Soil is forgiving, but also it will test your plants. If a plant is not strong enough to grow, it will not come up through the soil, and you have no business growing that plant anyways. You either need stronger genetics or something went wrong in a multitude of ways, but it was likely a dud. Um, in terms of your water, what goes into that water, and taking care of your microbial activity, which is important because soil is not just um, soil is not necessarily just dirt and particles. Soil is living. So in order to have roots that are living enough to produce something that will harvest, but not only harvest, so get and come out of a vegetative state into a flowering state, into a budding state, which all things do, not just the cannabis plant. It's tomatoes do that too, and flowers do that too. So I just say that to differentiate. In order to have something of that magnitude to live in your soil for that long, you have to have something called microbes in your soil. Microbes, mycorrhiza, that is what you would buy from the store. And there's a multitude of different products that have mycorrhiza in it. and you don't have to spend more than $3 on this product, but you can spend an upwards of $30 to $40 to $50 on a product that is naturally happening. You see what I'm saying? You can spend $3 and get the same thing. But what happens when I make my mycorrhiza is I have to put it in a bucket and I have to aerate some water. And once I have a bubbler going, the same thing that keeps fish alive. If you've ever seen a goldfish tank, you ever seen an aquarium at all, you see that little stick, that little tube that goes in the aquarium like this, and it comes out with a bubbler. I have them literally, I'm afraid to say, all over the place in here because this is my operating way. But essentially, you are aerating the water. You start that. You put your either your vegetative, you put your vegetative nutrient, or you put your bloom nutrient. Then you put your mycorrhizae, many ways to say this. And then you can put an additional fish emulsion, which is a fish fertilizer. After that is going, there is going to be a foam at the top. And that is essentially your fungus, your mycorrhiza happening. So in terms of exactly, so it's your ecosystem. It's your ecosystem. So having a consistent ecosystem and not letting your ecosystem die. So that's one spray, okay? That aerated mix of fish emulsion, the water that is being aerated. I also have, I said, my either veg nutrient and then my bloom nutrient. And then I'll throw in a handful of living soil that is already living, some pre-existing mycorrhizae. And then I'll throw in a handful of worm castings. And I will let that sit. And I will let that sit. And sometimes I let that sit on a far end of the farm in a big food safe IBC tote. And sometimes I go get another IBC tote off Craigslist for really cheap when I see them for cheap. And I cut it open and all my food scraps, I'll put it in there. And then I'll put some water in that. And I'll let that sit. I got 2 composts. And then all of my animals are pooping. So we take that in the truck and put that right next to that other compost. That's 3 compost piles. And then we chop down trees and all that mulch. That's our 4th compost pile. We throw that down next to that. That's number 4. And then we got a lot of grass. So we take all that grass. That's number 5. We throw all that down, throw it, mix it, mush it. We come back in a year. Exactly. You come back in a year after you spray it down, but really it's going to take care of itself. You come back around the farm, you look and you see the mound is just smoldering. Oh, well, that's good. It means that it's working. Okay. You come back around, something died. Oh, I forgot it's the compost. Well, good thing that that's on the edge of the acreage. So I set up the compost when I visit a farm, step 1. But I am using natural resources that are on that land and that we have access to the best of its ability, and without spending too much money and without messing up a process, so that our process is 100% organic. Because there's a lot of ways you did 99% of everything organic, but then that 1%, you literally just dropped the ball. Now this whole thing, you have to cross it out. But most people are not genuine and they won't admit that they failed their organic processes. And essentially, I'm the person that makes sure that you are articulating everything that you've come to me with. And if 100% organic is what you want, then I'll make sure that it is 100% organic.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So considering Considering, yeah,
People don't understand what you just dropped because man, we got a workshop that we're getting ready to do on March the 30th.
yeah, you read my
Nice.
mind.
So I got to give a shameless plug. We're in partnership with Heart and Soil Garden here in the
Yeah,
Valley,
good.
and we're hosting a workshop on the 30th. It's called "Get It Out the Mud," and the first part of it is about exactly that, composting. So you
Wow.
just dropped the gem. You
Wow.
gave people a 5-step process just now. That you just dropped the gems, man. I don't know if people caught that. They're gonna have to go back and
Indeed,
rewind it.
Yeah, and you can
indeed.
do 1, you can do 2, you can do 5. But once you do that, you have to keep your microbes alive. And microbes consume sugar. So I want to also make sure that that sugar is natural. So the sugar that I use is from Trader Joe's. I'm spending a lot of money on my sugar. But I think that it's important. I'm using coconut sugar,
Okay,
and
yeah,
it's just something that I'm using. I'm also on some of my grows. Some of my clients have chicken coops, and in my research, flowering plants they like chicken fertilizer. And I just say that to say,
facts.
stop spending your money on fertilizer just because it's in a nice box, because fertilizer doesn't come in a nice box in nature. Like, it's free. If you figure out how to source it, it's better than the stuff in the stores. But you only believe it because you spent your money on it. And that's what I don't understand. And that's what I started off with in the aquarium industry. But then I realized this is not just happening in the aquarium industry. This is happening in the food industry. It's affecting me. I had gotten sick and things like that, and just continual, battle with men's health. And I'm sourcing my own organic products, and I'm like, oh, attaining more information and realizing that everybody is lying to me. And so that's why I create everything myself. I grow everything myself from seed. It's not only fun for me though. I am a scientist, um, but it's how I am choosing to live my life. So there's
Right.
multiple times in my life where I've been unsure about health conditions, where my stomach is bleeding, and just various things. And recently, actually today, the doctor told me I'm pre-diabetic, and that comes from bad and poor decisions, but also potentially it is coming from hereditary issues because my father and my grandfather. However, it's something for me to figure it out. So, that being said, I do produce sugar free edibles. And I found in my research that you're not supposed to have sugar when you're consuming herbs. You're not supposed to combat. And I'm not just talking about something for recreational out of body experience, like whatever, just to be woke. I'm talking about everything you consume should not have sugar in it if you're trying to get a medicinal value from something that you're consuming. The sugar combats it. Your body has to consume the sugar and break down the sugar first, and typically it leaves your body before you can even get any type of beneficial uh, benefit from it. So experimenting with everything sugar free. I'm only pushing sugar free because me personally and my family were affected by it. So, um, but not only that, helping other businesses, from a business called Dope Honey that infuses honey, um, and other edibles, to other businesses that are focusing on mullein, to
Mhm.
businesses that are focusing on lettuce production, to businesses that are focused on cactus nurseries, like I said. So, um, but however, the difference between desert species and the requirements for the soil is um, lack thereof sand and or rock sediment to drain. Okay, so like everything is essentially requiring the same thing, maybe give or take some of the main nutrients. Some things might like kelp and fish emulsion, while some things might like steer poop. Okay, but at the end of the day, you have to make sure that it is either draining when you have things from the desert draining well, versus things like in Michigan or in Illinois. Okay, so these things are going to frost over. So just grass and sod is a completely different element than this hard clay. So it's just different variants of different things that will drain, but also um, there's only a couple of natural fertilizers essentially, and all of them are realistically things that have broken down. Okay, so it can be anything, but some things take to other things better. And if you only have um, 90-day window of where you can grow this crop, or right now, for instance, everything is getting ready to start right now in Arizona in terms of cultivation. And I will use cannabis as a example, because right now, if you put your cannabis plants outside in Arizona at this very moment in time, it's going to veg out, because there is a certain amount of sunlight, okay, and it is appropriate for vegetative state and vegetative state only, so that your plant is going to turn into a big old tree. Okay, come Halloween time, your plant is going to transform and start getting sticky and crystally and start looking like the product that we know naturally in the natural sunlight, as opposed to doing it indoors, which people are doing. Come Halloween time, all of this happens naturally. So right now is outdoor season, and it's outdoor season for everything else that flowers too. In the next few months, flowers are going to start appearing. And then come October, some flowers will stay on these trees as they're tough, but some flowers, they die, then they come back. And it's just the same cycle. And my clients pay me to help them keep their gardens blooming for longer, or harvest more max yields, um, or hone in on specific processes for whatever it is that they're looking for, of a certification or whatever will have you. So I'm someone that just reads the fine lines and applies the different sciences effectively, um, until we get, the product that we're looking for. Yeah.
Now I do have a question in regards to the diet, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
let John ask this question as well.
Yeah.
Ask mine.
Of course.
Yeah, you mentioned you're from the South Side of Chicago, and
Yeah.
obviously you attribute your wealth of knowledge to your education, but also your family, and
Yes.
then you also have a network of friends
Yeah.
that you've been able to kind of sharpen each other's skill set in the world of agriculture, aquaponics, and so on.
Hmm.
Can you speak to the significance of like that level of exposure, especially for those of us that are adults and we're in our infancy stages as far as like wanting to venture out into these fields of expertise? What do you recommend, as far as like how people should get started?
Well, I think that um realistically, I didn't plan to gain this type of knowledge. I think that my life has put me into the situation where I was forced to figure out, what is it that I really want to do? What is it that makes you happy when you wake up in the morning? I'm blessed to be able to have the opportunity to uh, pick and choose, okay, from grinding in situations where I can't tell you how many times I've heard no, people don't want me in the room. So I think that's probably the first thing I have to acknowledge, that, and have already acknowledged, there's not many of us in agricultural spaces, and even in the aquaculture and then aquarium space is literally even smaller. And I say that to say, for one, you just got to really realize, okay, you got to do it for you, whether it is agriculture, whether it is dancing, whether it is crafting something, or um, you know, it is literally, you got to figure out what it is that you love when you wake up in the morning on a Saturday morning. When you was a kid, what did you do? You see what I'm saying? Man, I was riding my bike to like random, when we finally moved to a suburb, we rented a house in a suburb. We had a little tiny pond, and it was like a sewer pond, but it was nature happening. I was trying to fish in a little sewer canal pond. You see what I'm saying? That's what I found enjoyment in. And that's literally, I promise you, I'm a grown man. I would probably still do that today if on a Saturday, if I ran past something that reminded me of that Chicago pond. I think I just really honed in on knowing myself deeply. I've been hurt. I've been hurt not only from like different situations of, like I said, no's, but just different situations of the world weighing you down. And but God was really blessing me because he's forcing me to come up with more plans. So realizing that, you know, my back is against the wall, my back has been against the wall many times in my life, many, and consistently, which is a blessing. But God continuously puts me in a position to ask myself, dude, what do you want to do? Because I'll bless you when you figure it out. So, do you want to play basketball, or do you want to play football, or do you want to run track, or what is it that you want to do? And
Right.
don't disrespect God, and don't disrespect the people that believe in you once you say, all right, well, I'm gonna run this ball, because they sitting there looking at you like you better slam dunk that ball. And that's the community that I have behind me. And I think that's why I move the way that I do. Like I don't want to fail. I feel like I can't. And with that, that's the pressure that I put on myself. Um, and that's the pressure that I put on my agricultural plans. So I have a very aggressive approach to everything that I do. And I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi. I can come off in terms of business sharp, but that's because my training is relatively hostile, um, productively hostile. And I was raised in a relatively militant family as well. And I think that all of this, and in addition to growing up in the hood on 79th Street, my block was in the red, which was a beautiful, like I said, this was a blessing because it forced me to be the person I am now, but it forced me to understand survival. And it also forced me to learn how to be content and happy, because I think every time that I elevated in terms of an educational or a space in which, okay, this is an accolade, um I think that you know, it was it was by accident. It was by complete accident. I didn't necessarily see it as an accident. It was a mistake that I was able to turn around, if that makes sense.
Yes,
So
sir.
um yeah, it really essentially, and I know I went into a million different places, but yeah, God's just put me in a position to choose. And especially when you get into industries like the cannabis industry, in which I've gotten into, it's literally all or nothing, because I was a school teacher prior to. So that's something for me to digest. I went from a public education sector, and now I'm doing something that's nearly taboo. You have to decide, you have to make up your mind, and
Yeah.
then you have to know what comes with it. So coming from Chicago, I know what comes with this. So I had to prep that, and I had to prep the people around me for some years, and I have things in position, because it is what this is at the end of the day. And I'm going to make this sound really nice, but also at the end of the day, on the flip side, there's a whole other aspect of people that will do anything to ruin your crop or get it before you. if that makes sense. And we're in Arizona. And so there are many rules that just are in your favor in terms of protecting yourself as well, and protecting your crop. It's all about knowing the rules and the layout of the land. But
Yeah.
essentially, man, it's all about knowing yourself. So I think, yeah, I made up in my mind that this is what I was going to do because it does not feel like work. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it don't feel like work, and I'm able to be my true self, my true articulate, my true creative and happy self when I'm operating in this, when I'm spraying my plants, when I'm taking care of my animals. And that's what it comes down to. I'm just a kid that made up in his mind that I wanted to be a cowboy and I wanted to go fishing every day, and I just kind of figured out how. So
So I think you were saying you have to decide that this is something that you want to do and be serious about it. And
yes,
then I also heard you mention that your core principles in life, the things that you stand on and believe in, you kind of have to bring that into that space as well to,
absolutely.
to ensure that you're producing the best product in a sense, right?
Absolutely. You got to stay consistent. Like one day, if I don't, and I'm so meticulous, but my animals and my plants are so healthy because of my practices that I get paid to um, to create formats to keep things alive and happy. Essentially, when things leave my care, the health starts to dwindle. Okay, so
And
it's
I imagine now that's kind of hard to do if yourself aren't happy and alive.
exactly. You got to think about it. If I'm not happy, who wants to talk to me about any of this stuff? This is something that I have, and it's not something that I can say, oh, I have down, because I do have days. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
But I would rather be doing this than anything else. I promise you. So, but yeah, it's fighting myself, and it's almost like another form of going to the gym. Who is going to take care of these animals and who is going to take care of these plants if I'm not doing it? If and at that, I have a relationship with the animals. I have a relationship with the plants. I used to train dogs. I've done everything, and it really is essentially around a relationship with the animal that I've been able to harvest. And it relationships with animals are essentially around food. Period. That's domestication. Period. And time. You know,
Right.
time, food,
Right.
and time. Sitting still in one spot, he's gonna make sure you're all right. By how you move, he sees you are not harming him. He might listen to you a little bit more. Every day gets better. You have to
Indeed.
put these plants down every day, and if you don't, your microbes are gonna die. So, you know what I'm saying?
Man, I can I could just hear the enthusiasm in every word, and I could tell that you true to this. You ain't
Thank
new
you,
to
man.
this.
Thank you.
And I
It means
think
a lot.
people like you are very instrumental to serve
Wow.
as a catalyst to bridge others into these spaces. So I consider you a true asset in this space. I look forward to collaborating with you
Absolutely.
through the Growth Spot initiative for sure. And I'm
Absolutely.
just very pleased that you took some time to share your expertise and your story with us tonight. Um,
Absolutely.
so yeah, and again, I'm just looking forward to building with you. So thanks again for joining us. As we close, I do want to highlight a couple of events that we got coming up. If you can't
Yeah.
see, the ticker below should display. Um, Actually, let me highlight this real quick. We just had a very successful event over the past weekend. We had a go bag training session
Wow.
here in Phoenix, Arizona. Very good turnout. Essentially, we had Brother James, who is a member of the collective, facilitate this training, basically just telling people, showing people how to prepare, right? Preparedness, and assembling a go bag, all the elements and items that you should consider, and just all the logistics that are involved with that. So that's very critical, especially during these times
Yes.
where, how should I say, interesting events are not something that is foreign to us, and it's better to be prepared more than anything. So I look forward to duplicating that effort.
Absolutely.
I'd imagine that there are others that may not have had the opportunity to participate that
Yep.
would be happy to take advantage of another session. And I think we all learned something. I know I did personally. So in
Yeah.
addition to that, we got the Get It Out the Mud series. That's a 3-part series. The very first of that series is in alignment with this conversation that we had tonight, Composting 101. So that
Absolutely.
is coming at you
Absolutely.
March 30th. It's going to be at Hardened Soil People's Garden here in Phoenix. So please, if you don't have any preoccupations on that day, just come out, have a good time with us. It's going to be a vibe. Learn a few things. We're going to turn over some compost, and just really just increase our information, right? Our knowledge in these areas so that we can apply this, right?
Yeah.
That is the intent. All ages and experience levels welcome. And then obviously later on in the season, we have the Legacy Camp, the return of the Legacy Camp. That's going to be the weekend of May 24th through the 26th. Long story short, that particular event is tailored for young men to accompany us and other men out into the rural space
Mm-hmm.
and actually set foot on our acreage that we own. And we do some camping, we do some hiking, yoga, breath work, archery, concrete, a multitude of different things to get them to unplug from the inner city landscape and just kind of, unplug from the Wi-Fi and all of that, and just, have a good wholesome time. And then later on this year in October, we have a very momentous event that is called Let's Get Free. What do we mean by that? So Let's Get Free is going to be a workshop dedicated to inform people how to acquire land without banks, without credit, right?
Mm.
So that's really in the spirit of what we did with our platform. And we're just looking to inspire others through what we do on this platform of Plot in Progress. But now we're bringing it full circle where we're going to have a lot of resources available and professionals that can accompany us to help people navigate that particular journey, right? So, yeah, check the calendar in between those events. I'm sure we're going to have some other things that pop up. And please stay tuned for the next episode. We're going to be coming at y'all on a weekly basis with topics such as what we had tonight. So if you have a particular topic that you would like to hear us discuss, please give us some feedback. The growthspot.org is our URL. Please check out the website. It's got comprehensive information about everything that we're doing and our calendar. And then you are also able to contribute via donation or volunteer. With that being said, Brother Nakia, you want to close us out?
Yes, sir, indeed. Before we do that, brother Zach, I want to give you the opportunity as well to tell people where they can find you one more time as well.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yes,
we'll
indeed.
close it out.
Yeah. So everybody, you can find me on TikTok at ZacGoFish. My current YouTube is ZacGoFish. We're working on a grow page. You can get 10% off of AC Infinity using ZacGoFish and Zachary Grow. AC Infinity is literally the top brand of indoor grow tents for any type of fruit or vegetable. And also the Cannabis brand is named Sneaky Dog. So you can find me on Instagram currently, and pretty soon we'll be in your local dispensaries. Okay, so thanks for having me, y'all. I really appreciate this conversation, man. It was deep, and I really look forward to being and partnering with you all on all of these events, man. So I'm gonna see y'all soon.
Yes,
For
sir.
sure, man.
Yeah.
Dope bill, man. Dope bill. Greatly appreciate your time, brother. And definitely, man, you dropped some gems on us. So people go back and listen to this. Check out the previous episodes as well. As the brother mentioned, man, we've got a ton that's going on. We look forward to the partnership as well, man. Here at the Growth Spot, we're unified in action to build, protect, and expand a fruitful legacy of love, equity, growth, ancestry, cooperation, and yield by inspiring and educating on the practices of agriculture, self-care, nutrition, environmental stewardship, and entrepreneurship. We aim to cultivate a vibrant community that's rooted in resilience and sustainability. We're out. Peace.